Welcome to KDKP Noire. I'm K Noire, and today we're talking the unexpected news that we just learned about NewJeans member Danielle. Danielle has decided not to return as the fifth member of NewJeans. Now, this was confirmed by a statement put out by Ador stating that they had spoken with her, they had, come to an agreement. So let's get into it. We had previously stated that we knew that Haein and Hyein were confirmed because Ador confirmed those two members first. Now, we knew that Minji, Danielle, and Hanni were on the fence, and they put out a separate statement. This was back in November, stating that they wanted to return, but they had not received all the full confirmation through Ador. Fast forward here to today. Now, what we have learned today is that Minji is still in discussions. Hanni is confirmed to be returning. That is from Ador. And we have since learned from Ador that Danielle is the final member that would not be returning. Now, we kind of speculated that Danielle would not be returning because we had seen her in a lot of different aspects. She had been on this outing for a charity event with Park Bo-gum, and others were, which was separate from what we learned to be NewJeans activities. So that had put the speculation really fast forward, saying she's probably not returning. There had also been discussions about her making several statements that this might not be something that she would continue to do, that she would not be returning to the group, that she would not be part of their activities, that she would be doing her own activities. So since then, we've also learned too that through statements and videos and so forth, that her sister indicating that Danielle would not be returning. Her sister made several statements. Her sister had also been participating in a lot of feedback and a lot of different materials saying that, Danielle wouldn't be returning. She was not very supportive of the whole NewJeans idea. Allegedly, the sister also put out information and statements related to Islet and all of the confusion that has since transpired with some negative comments, some negative things that have been said about them. And I think that at this point, it's probably a good decision that Danielle is not returning to NewJeans. And that is just in my opinion. And I say that based upon the way things have transpired. When you're in a situation when your contract is being renewed or you're in discussions with the company, there are a lot of legalities, and everybody knows the legalities that has happened with these girls. They have been ongoing for the past year. Minji, Hanni, and Danielle being in limbo, I think that for a company perspective would have actually said, not so sure I can trust or be able to support the credibility of what it is that they're going to bring to the table in this return. Because at that point, when those statements were made, they were still kind of on the fence, like they were still, supporting what Minji did for them, which that's okay. She did bring them to the point that they were at, but there were a lot of other things and allegations and all these court issues that were still lingering in the background. So I do believe that with them and the label had to actually, lay it out from a business perspective. From a fan perspective and from these girls' perspective, everybody wants these girls to win. Everybody wants these girls to return. Everybody wants to see NewJeans back as the 5 collective members that they initially had. Now, we all know that sometimes this works, sometimes this doesn't. But from a legal perspective, that probably was not going to happen because there were just too many things intertwining there that could have really, put this whole situation in another stratosphere. And we had seen that. We'd seen continuing ongoing court cases with Minji talking about, her ownership with stock and with, different parts of the label. And then, these allegations with the copycat kind of deals with Eyelid and, people imitating NewJeans. NewJeans is her baby. We understand she's the creative director. She helped them get where they are. This is what she did. This is how they came up. I think we can validate that. But the other part which transpired after that, with all of the, just leaving the label and putting these girls in that situation where, they are just out here. They are dedicated. They are loyal to this person because this is all they know. However, there's a situation to where legally they had to say, is this going to be supportive of what we do? Because the contract remained valid. The court sided with NewJeans, Ador, and Hyein, saying that they had not done anything wrong. The contract was still valid. These girls were still going to be, required to honor that contract. So I think it was very smart for Haerin and Hyein to just decide to come back, because that was the smartest thing they could have done legally for themselves. They were not, being charged. They were not being fined, because we all know that the fines that they would have had to pay to actually terminate the contract in any perspective or leave the group were very heavy. Now that the statement has come out about Danielle, we don't know if this is going to be something that she's going to have to incur. Is she going to have to pay these fines, or are they going to mutually settle this contract with her? That could be a thing, because that happens all the time in business. They come to an agreement that says, okay, we are mutually separating. It happens in employment law all the time. It is one of those things to where Danielle may not have to pay the hefty fines that they're talking about, because they came to an agreement to say, you don't want to stay, we don't want you to stay, and we can come to this term right here. However, how does that affect the other members? Could they have gotten out the same way? Could that have been something that they agreed with or settled? We're not sure. We don't know the terms of that yet. That has not been outlined or disclosed. But we do know that if Danielle is not going to be part of this, comeback, then it leaves it open. So, you've got Minji that they're clearly saying they are still in discussion and talks with, which means that they have not come to any agreement as to how she will return. And she's the leader of the group. That's a question of concern. So that is still up in the air. Hanni, on the other hand, seems to be cleared. She seems to be able to move over into the side into the group with Haerin and Hyein, to where she can come back and start participating in activities. I think that was smart on her part, and probably had a lot to do with her parents as well too, because they do say that her parents were part of the discussion. Now I know that may not be the case for all of them. Their parents may not be part of the discussion, but they are a key part of that, because these girls are not legally at the age where they can make those decisions. And it looks like in Korea that they have to have their parents as part of that. I think Minji is the oldest out of them, and she probably doesn't have to have her parents' consent to do a lot of things. It's probably on her. And if that's the case, I hope she has, good representation or good guidance leading her through this process and this decision. Well, too, I think that there leaves a point of with the fans. How is this going to resonate with the fans? Danielle was a fan favorite. How does that impact the fan base if she's not returning? If she's not returning, how does that impact the other four? Will they bring a fifth member on, or will they continue as four? I think it's possible for them to continue as four. I don't think they need to bring a fifth member on. The other question most people are saying, will they continue in the same capacity that they left with, the same format, the same concepts that were originated by Minji? Will that continue? I think with this group, they may have to rebrand, and that's a possibility. We've seen how rebrands have worked, and we've seen how they have not worked in this industry. But I think the fan base that sits with these girls is so extensive that it might not be so much of a rebrand, but maybe like a refresh for the group. And I think that they can come back and come back well. I think that we're going to have to wait and see how that kind of conspires and comes together. But it's very possible to see them come back and do more. We want to see them in 2026. Let this be the year that they just shine, and they shine through, and they come back, and they come back great. I think, in all honesty, I think anything else that has transpired from the narrative, and I will honestly say the negative narrative that they've had to endure with the Minji Jin situation, I hope it just dissipates, that we never see it, that it doesn't continue to linger, that they can rise above that, and that they can progress and be the group that we know they are, and put out the music we know they can put out, and be the talent we know them to be. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in for this breaking news, and until next time.